Hola, ciudadanos! Previously on Same Scene Different Score, we did some eerie sound design using pianos. And a couple of episodes ago, we got some rock musings to carry the story, using drums. But today, we have a brand new take on Mayar AlNouri's scene from his film Signals, and I will be using our brand new electric piano instrument AVANT to create a score that is part film noir and part slow rock. I will be showing you how I created the score using a leitmotif and developing it to showcase how one instrument can become the avatar of a character in a scene. But enough of this cold opening. My name is Luis, and live from Heavyocity HQ, ¡vámonos! So let's start with that motif. It's a simple motif. You have a flat second, and then we're also using a lot of like the flat six. But the most important element, I found it to be the syncopation. Basically like the notes fall in the ands, which sort of like gives this uneasiness, and as we develop that, it's going to create this rhythmic interest that is going to propel narrative a little bit. And this is what I'm using not only in the actual melody, but also in the chord progressions. As you'll see, it's gonna go like from E, and then to C. Let's play it with the other instruments to see how it sounds. The first thing to note is how soft I'm making sure this is performed. This instrument has such a nice range from like grisly, very like distorted, like high-end sound, but also like this very nice bell-like quality on the softer dynamics. So playing with that is gonna help me get a lot of range from my score, in which I'm gonna start very soft, that way I can build for it to be epic towards the end. The other two layers that are playing with this motif, deep space Rhodes, this one is playing the same notes, but I'm using it as like the layer that's sort of patty, that's on the background, that's sort of like giving some depth, and Touch of Heaven. I'm accompanying that texture with some strings using Novo. It's a neat way to use an instrument as AVANT that also has more unexpected pad-like textures coming from organic sounds, and then playing it with other organic textures from different instruments, then you create your own kind of soundscape. And in this introduction, the first moment we want to point at is when he gets the phone call and things start moving along. Again, we're gonna do what we've done in previous episodes, but in a very subtle way. And then all of these elements converge into that moment when he looks at the picture of his wife and kid, And there's just gotta be some emotional movement happening there. And for this particular take, I changed the chord without being too much on the nose, but also in a way that will allow us to ramp up to starting introducing rhythm. You notice that this swell is not like a hard stop crescendo. It's more something that's gonna wash us over to the next moment. And as you can hear, there's some like Braams-tastic action, very subtle underneath the beat as we enter this second section. As I mentioned, I'm using the Braams designer from Symphonic Destruction to add some bass, as we have the Mark II, the overdriven Mark II, provide a little bit more edge on the performance, while some of the tingling little like bells from another preset are like decorating and adding like high-end movement. So the Braams providing the bass. You can hear him doing the change from the tonic to the minor 6, which is part of the motif that we're developing for this piece. And talking about motif, the way this changes in the main instrument or main electric piano sounds a little bit like this. It's an E flat. And then we go to B. So for this section, I opted to not use the flat second. I want this to feel a little bit more solid, a little bit more introspective, and a little less jarring. Because we're gonna use the jarriness, new word alert, of these motif to signal that stuff is happening, and it's basically what we'll be using for like driving emotion, since we're not gonna be having high energy rhythmic action. And the other preset that I mentioned is Delay-O-Rama, which, as you can guess, it's using lots of delay. Using the echoes. It's using also stereo delay. And let's not forget the drum loop that we're using from Damaged Drum Kit to start bringing a beat. I feel that with the electric piano, having a little bit of rock plays really nicely, which combines with the film noir vibe that we set up at the beginning. You always want to have a nice backbeat. And since we're talking about drums, as we move on to the next stage, we're gonna build up. We're crunching the drums a little bit, so I'm using a preset from the Damage Kit, using Crunch on Command, which is very, very crunchy. Same beat, more crunch. So this next part, as we go up the stairs, this is where I actually wrote the main motif. I really enjoyed this like syncopated motif that I showed you earlier. And then from there, I deconstructed it for the intro, and then I developed it for the ending. But this is definitely how it sounded like when I first composed it. As you can see, I'm using all of the top velocities. That way we're getting more of that crunch. And this is where the motif comes to life in its sort of like first big statement. It's an F. As you can see, I'm trying to maintain that flat second, which is the one that's like creating that like jarriness when something's jarring. And I'm using another preset to double the low end, also from AVANT, Octave Demon. This is nice because it's using the echoes to create like that one extra little like delay that comes in that's an octave below, which makes it feel like it's going through a weird guitar pedal. And we're introducing Mosaic Bass to add some meat to the low end. So basically it's doubling the lowest note. And if you remember the scene, at this point, we want to also not just play music and edit it to the image, we want also the music to tell a story. So we're creating like a suspense pause where the camera pans out towards the other building, and then we're gonna fall back into the rhythm. Let's see how it's done. So we're creating that sense of like, oh, we're gonna fall down, by adding like a big washy sound effect sound, which is created with this combination of Avant and Fury. I took the Unplugged Mark II, nice percussive sound. I'm adding Fury. Yeah. But since I thought that was a little bit too much, too in your face, I sent it to a bus that has a bunch of stuff. Delay, reverb. Your own synth. And that is being joined by the two rhythmic presets. So you have the big wash created by the distorted Unplugged Mark II, and then like the bell-like rhythmic ostinato from the Patient, and Delay-orama. Wow, I really named that one hard to pronounce. And if you can add a string swell to add drama and emotion, I think you should do so. And at this point, I wanted to bring it all back and just finalize the motif. But I felt like needed like still like a bridge in which it was neither the introduction, but neither like the big moment. So basically, I changed the chord. I adapted the motif to this new tonal area, and it gave me like an extra momentum to land back to the F tonal center. And the chord that I chose was the dominant, so we're in F minor-ish, and then we went to C, and it ended up sounding like a little bit like this. Basically delaying one extra couple of measures going back to the big moment. And with the orchestration, the drums and the bass, and adding an extra melodic line using another preset from Avant, that is run through the aux chains. And that melody is also a variation of the main motif. So it's syncopated, and it's basically doing this octave jumps around the minor second and the minor sixth. And it brings us to that cool riff, that cool motif that takes us all the way to the end. And basically what happens here, I go back to the Mark II and the octave demon. I pan them to make it a little wider. As you listen to this, you might notice there's like extra notes. Those I penciled in because my fingers are not that good to play this complex stuff, but that's the wonders of the piano roll. It's a chordal harmony that I brought from like the days I studied jazz, and I think it has this cool tension that is also very idiomatic for the instrument. And we end up in the flat six, part of the motif. The strings are doubling. For that, I'm using Novo, the violin section, viola section, and the cello section. They're playing different parts of that harmony that I just showed you. And the unplugged, distorted one is doing this cool, like, little bends that... Let's check them out. They sound pretty cool. Again, you have the syncopation, and this was like a happy accident in which I accidentally added that extra note at the beginning, but then basically you have the beating that excites the distortion, and it's super cool. You go like, it's awesome. All right, I won't play it for you more. You can just replay this section many times if you want. So we have everybody playing the same figure, different notes, lots bringing the dynamic range all the way up, adding some Braams, hitting the root center in the beginning of each phrase. And we have that epic moment that's still moving slow, but in my opinion, it's just like, has like that head-banging edge that is representing our character for this edition of Same Scene, Different Score. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this new take on the scene, and with yet a new instrument and yet a new musical motif, it really seems there are endless ways of telling a story. If you're curious how this scene works with all our approaches, check out our other episodes, and for more on AVANT, check out our website heavyocity.com. Remember to subscribe if you like this video, and also feel free to share with your family, friends, spouses, maybe your business partners, maybe share with your bowling team. Who knows? They might like it. I'll see you around, guys.